So, I want you to picture a number in your head today.
Okay, how big of a number are we talking?
It's a big one, 1 billion.
Wow, 1 billion. With a B.
With a B,
Okay.
right? 1 billion people. That is the number of adults globally who, according to the projections in our source material for today's deep dive, are going to need to be completely reskilled by the year 2030.
It's a staggering statistic when you really sit with it. We aren't just talking about, like, people needing to learn how to use a new version of Excel or something.
Right.
We're talking about fundamental retraining for the modern workforce.
Yeah.
It's effectively the entire population of North and South America combined, all needing to basically go back to school in the next 5 or 6 years.
Which, I mean, that sounds like a great business opportunity if you're a university, right?
Absolutely.
You have this line of customers just wrapping around the globe. But then, you look at the supply side, the
Yeah.
traditional higher education model, and what do you actually see?
You see a lot of stone buildings.
Exactly. Stone buildings, ivy-covered walls, lecture halls that hold maybe, 300 people at a time? And you realize pretty quickly the math just doesn't work.
It's a bottleneck. It's a massive global bottleneck. The traditional infrastructure of education simply cannot scale fast enough to meet that demand.
And that is exactly the tension we are unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating stack of documents from EON Reality. We're specifically focusing on a new initiative they've launched under EON AI Ventures.
Right, the Global Diploma Alliance.
Global Diploma Alliance, yeah. And I have to say, the premise here is pretty radical.
It really is.
Because they're basically claiming they can take that old, slow, stone and ivy university model and scale it to reach those 1 billion people using AI and immersive tech. And reading through this, I kept wondering, is this the end of the traditional campus entirely?
I think it's more of an evolution. It's a fascinating pivot. Essentially, we're looking at the shift from what we might call the education economy, where you pay for the prestige and the experience of being on a physical campus,
Yeah.
to the credential economy.
The credential economy. I like that term.
Yeah, in the credential economy, the only thing that really matters is verified proof that you can actually do the job.
Right. But before we get into the wild, almost sci-fi technology they are using to do this, and believe me, we will get there, let's stick with the problem for a second. Because saying universities are slow is kind of a cliche at this point.
Sure.
What is specifically stopping a place like, say, Oxford or Harvard from just building 100 campuses in India or Africa and soaking up all that demand? I mean, McDonald's does it, Starbucks does it. Why can't a university?
Well, the documents lay out what they call an existential challenge regarding scalability. And it really boils down to 3 core things: capital, bureaucracy, and gravity.
Gravity.
Yeah, metaphorical gravity. Physical infrastructure. Historically, if a university wants to expand, they have to move atoms. They have to buy land, pour concrete, build the dorms, build the libraries, install million-dollar laboratories. That is incredibly capital intensive.
Yeah.
You are talking hundreds of millions of dollars before you even teach a single student.
So it's incredibly high risk. If you build it and they don't come, or if the local economy shifts, you are left with a very expensive ghost town.
Exactly. And then there is the bureaucracy side of it. The source material notes that navigating country-specific accreditation is just a total nightmare.
I can imagine.
You want to open a branch campus in Brazil? Great. Spend 5 years filling out paperwork before you are legally allowed to issue a single degree. And then, assuming you get the permit and you actually build a building, you have to recruit faculty who are willing to physically move there.
Right. Convincing a tenured professor to uproot their family is a whole other challenge entirely. So meanwhile, while the universities are stuck in these endless committee meetings about zoning laws and visas, you have millions of potential students in these emerging economies.
Millions.
And they have the internet, they have mobile phones, but they have zero access to a physical campus.
And that right there is the unserved market the documents refer to. But here is the really key insight from the reading. The students themselves are changing.
How so?
They don't necessarily want that traditional 4 years of philosophy in the quad experience anymore. They want what the documents explicitly call flexible, mobile-first pathways to employment.
They want a job.
They want a job, and they want the absolute shortest, most effective route to get there. And this is where the boundaryless competition comes in.
Which was a really interesting phrase in the report.
Right. Universities aren't just competing with the college one state over anymore. They are competing with Google career certificates, with coding boot camps, with highly specific YouTube channels. If higher ed doesn't figure out how to deliver skills digitally and instantly, they risk what the report calls irrelevance.
Irrelevance is a pretty scary word. for an industry that has been comfortable for 500 years. So enter EON Reality. They've launched this Global Diploma Alliance. Let's break it down for the listener. What actually is it? Is it a website? A metaverse?
Think of it as a distribution engine. It's basically the plumbing that connects the prestige and the authority of an accredited university with a global delivery system that can reach over 80 countries instantly.
And that delivery system is, I really have to laugh at the name, the OH Wow Joe BS platform.
It is certainly a memorable branding choice. I think
Yeah.
they wanted to capture the literal reaction of the user when they put the headset on. But honestly, don't let the marketing name fool you. The tech underneath is doubly serious.
Right.
This isn't just Zoom University. We aren't talking about watching a video lecture on a small screen while you check your email on another tab.
That is a crucial distinction to make because we all lived through remote learning a few years ago, and I think everyone can agree that standard video calls are not the future of high engagement learning.
Definitely not. The OHYW platform is built on what they call immersive sentient world experiences.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Immersive sentient world. That sounds like heavy marketing jargon. Translate that into plain English for us.
Hmm.
If I am a student in Lagos or Lima and I log into this platform, what am I actually doing?
Okay, let's make it super concrete.
Hmm.
Imagine you are learning to repair a massive commercial HVAC system. Or maybe you're a nursing student learning to insert an IV. In a traditional online class, you would read a PDF manual.
Yeah.
Or maybe watch a video of someone else doing it. It's totally passive.
Right, I'm watching. I'm not doing.
But on this platform, using just your phone or a standard VR headset, you are virtually inside the mechanical room or inside the hospital ward. You are seeing that HVAC unit in full 3D, anchored right there in your physical space. If you're using augmented reality, you can walk around it, you can reach out and physically turn the virtual valves.
So it's completely spatial, it understands depth and your physical position in the room.
Precisely. And it's sentient because it actively reacts to you. If you turn the wrong valve, the virtual pressure gauge spikes. If you forget to turn off the electrical breaker first, you get a virtual shock or the whole system fails. You are learning by doing, not by reading about doing.
And the mobile first part of this really stood out to me because usually this kind of heavy 3D simulation requires a $3,000 gaming PC with a massive graphics card.
And that is the massive breakthrough here. EON has optimized this entire experience to run on the device that almost everyone already has in their pocket.
The smartphone.
Yes. If you are in a rural village in Southeast Asia, you might not have a laptop, and you certainly don't have a high-end gaming rig. But you almost certainly have a smartphone. This platform meets the user exactly where they are, technologically speaking.
Okay, so I totally get the student experience now. It's essentially a high-fidelity simulator that gets you a job. But let's look at the university side of the equation, because the promise here is that a major university in, say, Chicago, can issue a real diploma to that kid in the village based on their performance in the app.
Yes, that is what they call diploma authority. The university provides the ultimate seal of approval. They verify the credential.
But I have to push back on this a bit. If I am the dean of a prestigious engineering school, am I really going to put my university's hard-earned logo on a credential earned by a kid playing a simulation on a phone 5,000 miles away? How do I actually know they learned anything? How do I know it's not just a game they memorized?
That is the billion-dollar question. And honestly, it brings us to the most technical and probably the most important part of these documents, the AI.
Right, the AI mentor.
Exactly. EON Ventures makes a really aggressive distinction in their documentation here. They talk about generic AI versus precision AI.
With generic AI being things like standard ChatGPT or Gemini.
Right. Look, we all love large language models. They can write poetry, they can summarize your emails, they can give you a pretty good recipe for lasagna.
Sure.
But as the documents explicitly point out, they have an accuracy rate that tops out around maybe 80%. They hallucinate, they make things up, and they do it very convincingly.
Which is totally fine if you are writing a creative story, but not so fine if you are repairing a commercial jet engine.
Exactly. If you are training a nurse or an aircraft mechanic or someone managing a high-voltage power grid, 80% accuracy isn't just okay, it's potentially fatal. You cannot have an AI tutor telling a student to cut the blue wire when they should cut the red one just because the language model got a little confused.
So how does EO actually claim to solve this hallucination problem? Because practically everyone in Silicon Valley is trying to solve that right now.
They use what they call spatial AI, combined with a highly restricted closed knowledge base. This is really the secret sauce of the whole platform.
Yeah.
The AI isn't just pulling from the entire open internet where it might find bad information or Reddit threads. It is entirely restricted to the specific, verified technical data of that exact machinery or that specific medical procedure.
Okay, so it's basically working from a verified, lockdown textbook.
Yes, but it goes much further than that because it's spatial. Because the system physically knows where you are looking and what object you are touching in the simulation, it creates context-aware guidance.
Meaning what, exactly? How does that look in practice?
Meaning the AI literally sees what you see. If you are holding a virtual wrench near the intake valve of an engine, the AI knows that exact physical context. It won't give you advice about the exhaust pipe on the other side of the room. It narrows down the possibilities based on your spatial location, which drastically reduces the chance of any error.
So it's not just guessing based on text prompts. It knows, oh, the student is holding the wrench near the intake valve, and it gives advice specific to that exact micro moment.
Exactly. They call it 100% precision. The system validates your competency in real time. It doesn't just check if you answered C on a multiple-choice quiz at the end of a module. It actively watches you perform the task in a simulation.
Wow.
Did you follow the safety protocol? Did you execute the steps in the exact right order? Did you react correctly when the pressure suddenly spiked? It verifies the actual physical skill, not just the rote memory.
That is a huge shift in how we think about testing. It really bridges that gap between I know about this thing and I can actually do this thing.
And that is exactly why traditional universities might actually sign up for this. Because the AI is acting as the rigorous gatekeeper. The university could look at the data and say, we know this student is fully competent. Not because they sat in our lecture hall for 40 hours, but because the system forced them to prove their skill 50 times in a row before we ever issued the piece of paper.
So the AI acts as the incredibly rigorous professor who never gets tired, never takes a day off, and never grades on a curve.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So let's talk about the business side of this alliance. How does a university actually get on board? Because we talked about their bureaucracy earlier. Usually, getting a university committee to agree on a new lunch menu takes 6 months. How are they supposed to adopt a futuristic AI spatial platform without getting completely bogged down?
It's true. Speed is definitely not their strong suit historically. That is why the Global Diploma Alliance offers two very different partnership models. It's basically a fast track and a custom track, depending on the university's appetite.
Okay, let's look at the fast track first. In the documents, they call this Model 1, Certify the Career Pathways.
Right. This is the ultimate plug-and-play option. The OHYW platform already has over 9,000 certified career pathways built into it.
Wait, 9,000?
Yeah.
So the content is already fully built.
It is already there. Everything from healthcare to global logistics to advanced manufacturing. In Model 1, the university simply acts as the validator. They review the existing curriculum. They say, yes, this absolutely meets our institutional standards. And then they agree to issue their official diploma to the students who successfully complete those specific pathways.
So the university doesn't have to hire new professors. They don't have to write a single syllabus.
Zero curriculum development required. The documents state that a university can go from signing the initial contract to actually generating revenue in 30 to 45 days.
That is frankly unheard of in higher ed. That is moving at Silicon Valley startup speed.
Exactly. It allows them to tap into that massive global market immediately. They get what the report explicitly calls passive global revenue. They earn a fee for every single credential issued under their name without lifting a finger to teach the actual class or grade the virtual papers.
Okay, that sounds fantastic for the university CFO. But what if I am a university that has a really specific world-famous program, like a top-tier MBA or an elite engineering track? I don't want to use off-the-shelf content, even if it is good. I want my content. I want my brand front and center.
Then you would choose Model 2, which they call Build a Custom Virtual Campus. This is where the university uses EON's proprietary creation tool, which is called Genesis XR.
Genesis. Sounds a bit biblical.
It is a bit dramatic, sure, but it implies creation from the ground up. It allows the university to upload their own proprietary knowledge base. They can build their own custom VR scenarios. If you have a highly unique trademarked method for teaching supply chain management, you build that exact method into the simulation.
I see.
You maintain your brand, your distinct pedagogy, everything that makes you unique, but you distribute it globally through their mobile network.
It's basically like franchising versus owning a boutique. Model 1 is selling the verified high-quality store brand products. Model 2 is opening your own highly customized boutique store inside their massive digital mall.
That is a really great analogy. And the strategy they actually suggest to universities is crawl, walk, run.
Means start simple.
Right. Start with Model 1,
Hmm.
get the passive revenue flowing, get the faculty comfortable with how the tech works, and then reinvest that new revenue into building your custom Model 2 campus down the line.
I want to zoom out a bit here. We have talked a lot about the bleeding edge tech and the lucrative business model for the schools. But I am stuck on the student perspective again. You mentioned something earlier from the reading dual-credential distribution. That sounds like a very heavy bureaucratic phrase.
Right.
What does it actually mean for that kid we talked about in Lagos or Lima?
This is honestly a massive game changer for career portability. Usually, if you get a vocational certificate in your local emerging market, it might not mean much to an international employer.
Right.
But with this alliance, the student earns the digital skills badge from the platform itself, plus an official diploma from a recognized, fully accredited Western university.
It's a passport.
It is an economic passport. Suddenly, your technical skills are verified by an entity that an employer in London or New York or Tokyo immediately recognizes and trusts. It creates true global mobility. It means your raw talent isn't geographically locked anymore just because of where you were born.
And this ties perfectly back to a quote in the material from Dan Lajerskar, the CEO of EON Reality. He said, "The credential economy has shifted."
That is really the core takeaway of this entire initiative. The old education economy was entirely about artificial scarcity. The mindset was, I went to this elite school and you didn't because there were only 50 spots available in the lecture hall.
Right.
The new economy is entirely about verification. It's saying, I can do this specific job with 100% precision, and I have the immutable data from the AI simulation to prove it.
It challenges the old ivory tower model incredibly aggressively. It is essentially saying that the physical location doesn't matter. The ivy on the walls doesn't matter. The doing is the only thing that matters.
And frankly, for those 1 billion people needing reskilling by 2030, the ivory tower was never a realistic option anyway. They couldn't afford the tuition, or they couldn't get a student visa, or they couldn't leave their families. This model truly democratizes access. It says, if you have the talent and the drive, the technology will bridge the physical gap.
But let me play devil's advocate for just a second here. Is there something fundamental lost in this shift? I mean, college is also about the human network, the social growth, the late-night debates in the dorm room. Can you really replicate the truly human element of education with an AI mentor?
You know, that is a very valid fear. But I think we have to carefully distinguish between the traditional college experience and pure skills acquisition. This alliance isn't trying to replace the 4-year coming-of-age journey of a liberal arts degree. It is laser-targeted at the global skills gap. It is purely about employability.
So it is deeply utilitarian. It is about economic survival in a rapidly changing job market.
Exactly. And the documents do mention that the platform focuses heavily on sentient world experiences. So while it is definitely not a dorm room party, the AI is designed to be highly interactive and conversational. It uses a voice-first interface. It feels much more human and responsive than just reading a static textbook. But no, it is not going to replace the Saturday tailgate or the football game.
Fair enough. So looking at the big picture of everything we've covered today, we are seeing a massive convergence. You have this desperate billion-person demand for modern skills. You have legacy universities desperate for new revenue and global scale just to survive this boundaryless competition. And you finally have this technology, spatial AI, and XR that is mature enough to actually connect the two.
It is the difference between a bottleneck and a superhighway. The traditional campus model is the bottleneck. The Global Diploma Alliance is attempting to pour the concrete for a brand new digital superhighway.
And for you listening, whether you are in education or corporate hiring or just trying to stay employable yourself in the next decade, this clearly signals that the ground is shifting beneath us. The defining question is no longer where did you go to school, but what can you unequivocally prove you can do?
And more importantly, can you do it right now with absolute precision?
Exactly. So here's the thought I really want to leave you with today. We all grew up believing that going to college fundamentally meant packing a suitcase and driving to a physical campus. But if a university can exist entirely on a smartphone, and if a spatial AI can mentor you with more precision than a tired teaching assistant, and if you can earn a world-class accredited credential from your living room in any country on Earth,
Right.
what does the word campus even mean in 2030? If verified skills completely replace the prestige of the physical location, does the social networking aspect of traditional college just become a luxury good that only the ultra-wealthy buy, while everyone else just buys the raw skills?
That is the exact question that will define the next decade of global education.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today. We'll see you on the next one.